Hello, one of the reasons that presidents want loyalty is because locations, areas, and states are not allowing mandated law to be followed, and you guys aren't allowing it because you guys are defending your uses of your own differences and other people's differences, like Republican and Democrat. Right through, like you guys are countering Biden with the calling us domestic extremisms and like that based on our thing. Right through administrations, they've been changing and faking digital evidences with the ones doing that, including the FBI director Robert Luskin and other Comey. Comey's wife is involved too with Diddy and with New Britain Superior Court with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, all sides of criminal and civil cases and depositions, increasingly collusion slashes at all natures of crime scenes, all sides of the case, even the court's family members, all natures of conjunctions to them too, because there's more involved than just that. The news at the same time. WFSB attached me to fake conversations with them with that. They have all there's some girl or a boy. I don't know if it was a boy or a girl. I don't even know who it was. They would say things to other people because they have roles with all these different countries. America, Russia, and China. We were before we were America. That we were forced by nature to be united and simultaneously independent. But then again, through a system where here and there we're tortured, extorted, and enslaved, and forced to blame other things, others ourselves, or to be sensed and that adapted to, and that made it worse. Even if it was a majority of people adapting syntactically, even if it was everyone. Now, countries A through Z were and still only operated by locations, areas, and states. They can only be operated by it. Now, they want entertained. We can't be entertained with their logic and nature without forcing the presidents to that or leaders of any country. And at the same time, that's only been so leaders too, they force that. The difference of that too was played by the breaching method, where it plays where you guys make subject treatments, leaving it with itself out. That breaching method, which reassigned with black and white, and what debates about it are about, leaving itself out. The breaching method. Otherwise, sensing that body, nature itself shows us there are obligations. Nature shows us how and why. We need to discern the difference between criminal insidiousness, natures of peace, and peace. We need to discern how on off the Connecticut State Judicial Branch offices and corrections offices. Increasingly, they have roles of people with predicate acts at and next to each campus I went to. Even a campus I went with people named Mendez and Sioka tied to it in West Hartford, involved with drugs and medicines crimes of people on my street, involved with the intelligence community from other areas. Like a Robert Rodriguez came on my street and made confessions about his roles with untimely deaths and brought up a principal child abusers campus to me. And they forced that by not letting me speak and keep calling back to make all these confessions and confirmations and then saying fake things too. And then I would call back and I would still not be able to speak. And everyone, they put all these messages. I still didn't get to speak yet. They're using wire crime acts and methods with the principle being upskirt nature, involved also with some Leahy family members and people that are halfway making confessions. Some police make confessions about roles with him with a police chief Cintron, fabricating fake ties to little kids with them and adults. I never had a conversation with the Leahy family in my life. They pretended other in databases. They forged names of doctors foreign, but with foreign too, because there's also a hyper foreign. These are ones playing games with it. Like someone said a joke. They say me take a Coke, and then you take it, and they say, me American, me very smart, me people, I know, me Chinese, me very smart, me put pee in your Coke. Some stupid thing like that. But to make a fake instance of knowing me. These are behavior racketeering crimes worse than war crimes at each campus, each age and nature of them. They're putting fake ties, fake natures of ties between kids, and fake motivations. A breaching method knew that it had roles and has roles with the motivations of people at A through Z, at countries A through Z. You guys left out its roles with everything. That's why and how the suburbs were designed before America's founders were born. Each kid, in other words, so a Harris family too is involved. Our class, I only went and was only one time to it. It used to be on Valley Crest Street in Wethersfield, Connecticut. Is involved with the DeMoro family and his neighbors and their educators, putting fake natures of ties between students, as ones involved with the differences racketeering, worse than war crimes, and the World Trade Center attack years before it and short term before it, with ones involved with wire crimes on my street through time that are also and mail crimes and falsified police reports and police forms switching names intercities, falsified police reports rolls with them, retired judges and prosecutors and their family members involved with the same house/S, and people tied to them also involved with home break-ins in my area when I was a kid and when I'm an adult, and the spots next to it. And they have wire crime acts and methods. The Wethersfield police pretended me into conversations with them at the police station as a kid and now as an adult. They pretended that through the news at the same time. So they are leaking and pretending other. In other words, they have roles with the state judicial branch offices and the corrections offices and the conjunctions to it and to that with a whole bunch of people involved with the houses that the police forms and their sources brought up, like Colo and Smith, involved with the Wethersfield police with predicate acts with other countries, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital and next to the hospital, like at the Morrow's Market, where it was then and now, and Aiello's Kitchen. I don't know if it's still there. And involved, I believe it's called Cut and Style. The Aiello family has roles with names next to Trinity College, and with a fire department, involved with people from foreign countries and some religious nutbags, including a former Mayor Gold, involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shifts, various natures of federal crimes, with proven child abusers, leaders of kids cliques, involved with the Joe Aiello and a former Mayor Gold and his family members, and people on the sides of parks that he was recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with federal evidences, crimes, identity theft, fraud, sequence shifts, little acting. Some people they're covering up where and how they have roles with all natures of investigators, in courts, family members, personally and professionally, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and a whole bunch of people next to campuses, including fire and medical campuses, and Hartford, that are involved intercities and intra-cities, not just Hartford. But these are predators against the kids and between the campuses too. So they keep measuring and maintain left out their roles with predicate acts with facts and databases that are roles with the answer to why and how, even though things that nature has been demonstrating to us has been changed. And even things that our founders at the same time with nature communicates to us. Other is forced, hurt, tricked, and persuaded to be entertained at each age of fact-cheating nature. Our founders and nature itself told us that witch trials and the founding locations are about James Madison's plan and about why and how they had to use that plan and why and how they had to leave slavery entrenched, even though they wanted nothing to do with it. Even though our founders and nature itself communicated to us that a human fact-cheating nature breaching method reassigned what nature communicates with black pupils' rights of eyes, for example, which comes with all kinds of revelations and demonstrations by nature, which generates this. We know this because nature also generates fish with two eyes, birds. We are shown the body of the hyper-invisible but still discernible, which comes with English grammar's parts as the invisible but still discernible. Like subjects, we can only appreciate subjects individually grouped and simultaneous to an extent, except for where and how we have a phenomenon of being able to treat them and understand them and appreciate them the way nature itself is showing us to. All parts of nature as itself even if someone makes something up. Its volume science is distinctly the order of the finite, is distinctly the order of what is active in the group, and is distinctly the order of what is simultaneous. In demonstration of the identity of the hypersimultaneous, a distinct identity of simultaneous nature is one of the things that which is not the other species' bodies, and is not our species' body, but it is the one. It is the identity of value progression where its identity relationship to itself and the value of that of itself. Of that is why and how there are multiple species bodies that are distinct, but also non-distinct and simultaneous. There are individual species bodies of individual bodies, no, with all group differences being generated by that distinct identity, that distinct individual identity of volume. That is not any other one, but it is inseparable from, while as all ones, so we could discern it. It is coming to, from, as, with, and for all things. Roxanne, thank you. In other words, please, Tulsi Gabbard, FBI, and news, do what's right and respond to me. Please, WFSB, give up the people who put me in fake conversations with you and that are leaking their roles with the intelligence next to you through time, increasingly involved with attaching me and everyone around me, including my family members, to fake changed communications with me. And they did this to other kids. I forced them making self-value roles with child sexual offenders because of the way they're using the right to lie, where they don't have the right to lie, fake motivations. There are teachers with West Hartford recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with the name O'Neill, involved with foreign and domestic intelligence, involved with some sexual and medical offenders through time. Increasingly, people on all sides of Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut, they have been involved intercities with child campuses, as ones at the same time with fire campuses, and then fire department camp families running into Hartford Hospital with a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital, and the businesses next to them have roles of people I didn't even have classes with my grammar school, and with the people I don't even know next to the schools I went, that went out of their way to pretend other, with Wethersfield Police, including people with the name Mendez, attached me to fake conversation with the police as them with them as a Mendez too. At Wethersfield Police, I didn't have a conversation with one of them there. Not one word in my life with the older Mendez brother, and they pretended other. And his younger brother too was in the Britain Superior Court and with the Wethersfield Police, involved with some sexual and medical offenders of kids, tied to the rules with identity theft, fraud, slanders, wire crime acts and methods, where they put whole fake wire transcripts. They put fake digital evidences. They're changing and faking what was actually and is actually recorded on Facebook. Facebook has collusions with the World Trade Center attack, with former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, with other agencies like CIA, that they're leaking it now too. And their roles also with fire departments in Hartford Hospital. A bunch of people tied to this Leahy family, also personally and professionally, involved with judges and prosecutors and their family members, involved with predicate acts with them, fake identity theft, fraud, slanders. They're putting fake things in databases, and they're building on roles doing that at each campus I went to, and names next to it involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. There's a Christina Sioka involved with a doctor who pretended fake conversations to me, involved with West Hartford campuses, and you know, people with the name Mendez are more sexual and medical offenders of kids, making them have self-value roles too, with crime methods recorded. These are people roles with proven child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart. And the one who was forced, more recent, the principal Bean, he has roles with the kids that were child abused, who are also involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, that need to hide life progressions at the same time, as ones involved with the World Trade Center and the spots next to it and the court next to it, a sequence shift from inside the court. The people with the businesses next to at the time, and now they'll tell you they don't have the integrity to speak for the Constitution on a bridge, and for their roles with investigators tied to that place, that corner, and corners of streets. All with corners of streets, the same ones involved there. Town Line Drive, Sausage Highway. They're involved with corners of streets on Church Street in Old Wethersfield, with courts putting fake natures of ties to kids, with sexual and medical offenders born and domestic. They've been speaking about psychiatry. They should fear God in the Marines right now and in the Air Force to hide and plot with the Wethersfield Police, forging and switching names, with the New Britain Superior Court, the Harper Courts, the Connecticut District Court, with their families, a whole bunch of people directly and indirectly involved with predicate acts on my street, and the police that are forging and switching names, refusing to identify themselves, and the campuses that are not allowing communications of me. They already put me in faked and changed communications as collusions with sexual and medical offenders of kids and legal ones. We're going to get them interbranch on paper. In other words, I'm not going to hide your secrets, and I'm not going to, in other words, I'm not going to go into the details because I'm trying to save the federal, any kind of. They're trying to make it look like they're keeping each side criminally foreign influence and blaming other things other than themselves, hyper criminally foreign influence, and blaming other things other than themselves. I'm not even a lawyer. Lawyers too are Trantolo, and lawyers like that have been advertising through WFSB, WTNH, and Fox Connecticut News. They have roles covering up all kinds of predicate acts with facts and evidences racketeering worse than war crimes, including all kinds of predicate acts methods with the judicial branch officers and corrections officers as ones involved with home break-ins and child sex offenders, and their roles with pretending corrections is their motivations, where and how they're playing games. With all natures of investigation, investigators recorded being and having been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically, delusions wrought. Whiting Forensics has wire crime acts and methods with the FBI and CIA involved, and foreign to domestic military involved with people with the name O'Neill, who have their kids also involved with the kids of Brian Silver, and others with the courts. Well, like New Britain Superior Court has a whole bunch of people tied to a Jonathan Milano and a Rick Ciampaglione, who came to my area from as strangers to make confessions and demonstrations to me and confirmations to me about their rules of wire crime acts and methods, falsified police reports, identity theft, fraud, slanders of my neighbors and people tied to them and their educators. Get them on paper as the ones of two. Wethersfield Police brought their name up, and Whiting Forensics brought their name up. Also with with Whiting Forensics has a Joshua Julian, also involved with planting evidence on my all sides of my house with them from other areas. I don't even know where he lives. I think he lives near. I heard somewhere. I think he's related to. He lived near where Mike Violet and Mark Violet, and people have been spreading pretend fake ties, fake nature ties to me, where the intelligence community uses the right to lie, where they don't have the right to lie. And then Mark Violet and Mike Violet all along Ridge Road have roles with like a Mazzucato family and people associated with a Milano family that worked at a modern pastry. And a whole bunch of people of a modern pastry tied to the Milano family have been lying to modern pastry about how and why they know me. With the interbranch and foreign at the same time, intercities. And these are people that you never see them routes, you can't respond to it. In other words, and they have you go to the principal's office, and they put fake things, fake natures of ties to kids, as the ones I caught with the proven child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart. One's named Demoro and Kerr. It will record, confess, demonstrate, confirm they were influenced with names all along Route 3 and conjunctions to it, like the and conjunctions to that, but like the state judicial branch offices. They have roles with all kinds of putting fake things in databases, acting tied to it, also with former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, and their roles at and next to news locations involved with predicate acts with them, wire crime acts and methods, digital crimes with them. They have the nerve to use words like domestic extremism. They need to fix the World Trade Center predicate acts the WFSB had and has roles with, including with the Saudi attackers, and worse, that has been using all sides, fake sides, pretending other, as systems tactical terror from nature's with our difference /S, therefore names A through Z. But we have been systems tactical terror from nature's. You guys have predicate acts with facts methods, roles, needs, and natures that had you self-value with your logic justified because you were child abused at campuses A through Z, sickly distinctly too, because this breaching method uses when you guys debate how sickly non-distinctly. It uses the difference of that too. The differences of campuses A through Z. They have replaced what our founders communicated about the breaching method, about how why they did not have free speech, about how why that's how slavery was forced entrenched northern colonies, southern colonies, about how why James Madison's plan they had to counter extort George Washington. You guys won't even allow people to be honest about the extortion of George Washington, let alone about the extortion of him and the counter extortion of him simultaneously, even though that's what he agreed to help and use. They had to counter extort people at key locations inside but more than 13 states and make them break those crazy laws against themselves and everybody else anyway, to an extent. But then they had to hide from the internationally monitored conversations, internationally entrenched collusion /S, and with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and terrorists. Still, you guys can't afford to have discerned honestly and legitimately why there is a witch trial place next to Webb House in Old Wethersfield, Connecticut. And now why and how it's renamed the Webb Stevens Museum. Increasingly, people that next to it have been putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me behind my back, try to make fake exceptions at corners of buildings, as ones involved with Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, and Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, and at the same time with UConn families involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids too, even sexual and medical, and the difference of that, because they have other natures of organized crime still roles at the same time. Differences, bracket. See, nature shows us we have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. The breaching method knew, while nature was demonstrating to everyone, a breaching method is one of the things that's a problem at countries A through Z, at locations, areas, and states A through Z. In other words, and it needs to keep those demonstrations blamed on other things, others ourselves. It has everyone thinking God, because it has everything it did and does is through our own A through Z. That's why how everyone, in other words, jumps in the way to prevent people from using how we have black people's bites of eye to peer right through them, skipping details, exceptions, exception nature, valuing fake exception nature. Many Americans, when we sit back and think, they're using what's in databases, pretending it has integrity when they know it doesn't. All truths are using as lies too, and to screen it, they're putting lies between truths. In other words, right through administrations, they put fake transcripts and show the value of it to presidents. I'm one of the people that was in the Ninth Circuit Court as an observer next to the World Trade Center in Manhattan, New York, right before the World Trade Center attack. And I was the night before, I was in Manhattan in a hotel there. People involved with those spots and with the court next to it, next to the World Trade Center too. They were proven after the attack. Right before the attack, they had shown the panel of judges from inside the court. They switched the sequence. They switched the date. They made it look like it was handed in at a wrong late date. And the court was played with that. But then the court, that was proven. But that led up to a 2006 district court case involved with, right before that case too, involved with a defendant, a former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, Robert Luskin. He's involved too with the, people with the prisons and the overt criminal enterprises, involved with some sexual and medical offenders of kids on news pretending to be against it when they know that's to an extent at least plausible they have collusions with such, like a Sammy the Bull, is involved with people with the state judicial branch office and corrections offices, and people from Connecticut with their educators who have been putting fake ties, fake natures, and ties between students. That's why they're the ones further with this principal upskirt nature. There's further. There's a on Twitter there are more upskirt pictures involved with the FBI, involved also with the principal being with upskirt pictures, and their roles with shopping centers, intercities, and and malls. A whole bunch of people tied to a John DeMorrow too with the state education department, and next to it involved with criminal enterprises and private ones, with grammar school kids and middle school kids involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and them and putting them in collusions with high school too. They're built, and then the people with Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut, increasingly has collusions with people with conjunctions to Town Line Drive and towns, town, like town lines with a John DeMorrow involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with my educators. I never saw him on a campus in my life. He has rules with security at campuses and with some medical and sexual offenders of kids, putting fake things in databases, including nurses, and their rules with the kids of the leaders of the kids with this. With identity theft, fraud, slanders, lying to their own family members, fake ties, fake natures of ties between everyone. In other words, that's why you guys need to get them on paper too. They're refusing to identify themselves legitimately into branch. And they have violence involved too. They have overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and people with that next to the Harvard Hospital, as the ones on my street involved with them with wire and mail crimes, and whole methods of mail and wire crimes. Get them on paper. Judge Napolitano, someone could type onto his thing, because they have this Facebook page involved too with the FBI and with Fox Connecticut News, and their sources and intelligence next to them in Hartford, Connecticut, next to the state capitol, as ones involved also with this as the sources of WTNH. They have been planting evidences at crime scenes and next to it, and on corners of streets and their rules with founding locations. These people involved with predicate acts in my street from other areas and with the Wethersfield police. I recorded them using wire crime acts and methods since I was a kid. They're hiding their collusions with all kinds of natures of crimes and crime methods from parents. They should not have hid how I caught them involved with the home break-ins, including at my house, and with the Heather Hansen and Joe DeMorrow, and with the Tony DeMorrow who called the police. They should not have hid why and how they called the police. You know how I pulled the gun on the guy. Well, I knew who it was yet. And then he made a confession over the phone. His cousin, one of the Joe DeMorrows, involved with the Wethersfield police, increasingly with these Mendez police, that attached me to fake conversations with the older police person at the Wethersfield police station as a threat and confirmation and demonstration of their roles with some sexual and medical offenders of kids, with falsified police reports as an array of falsified police reports for the same arrests that they used to force. They put arrest of a harassment for me countering child abusers and other natures of organized crimes. I caught them with at the same time. They covered up by faking and changing what's communicated. They pretend they don't understand people, and they're changing and faking digital evidences. The interbranch forging and switching names. They have their kids involved. Fear God, because they have the corrections offices and judicial branch offices increasingly involved with names with the World Trade Center attack, wire crime acts and methods with recorded confessed demonstrate confirmed. I didn't even ask them about the police sought me out, record confessed demonstrate confirmed. I only have one sentence ever to Stephen Stocko. He's involved with identity theft, fraud, federal evidence crimes with Wethersfield police and intelligence at foreign and domestic people at the Britain Spirit at Connecticut's judicial branch offices and Wethersfield Pizza House right next to it, and people involved with Stephen Stocko, involved with fake ties, fake natures ties to people, and with intelligence at Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut, has something to do with his role still, with a whole bunch of people tied to Wethersfield Pizza House involved with wire crimes, mail crimes, for sequence ships, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. When I knew them, and I never saw Maria Pizzino on our Weathersfield campus in my life. She's involved also with her neighbors, increasingly with sexual medical offenders of kids and body doubling spots, and people involved pretending passions and emotions, and with the news at the same time. You need to get them on paper, one name and sequence, please. Tulsi Gabbard. Let me show them how to think. The people of the law, A through Z. Act countries, A through Z.